Hello, brilliant entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast. This is episode number 325, which means you can find all the links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/325. In today's episode, we've got an anonymous Q&A. Someone has reached out and asked, how do I create a quality course or membership? This is a really juicy episode, so let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. So as you may know, you can submit questions into the Heart-Centered Business Podcast at any time at tashcorbin.com/question. I'll make sure I link to that in the show notes of today's episode. And I've had a special request from someone who has reached out to ask for my advice on creating a quality course or membership and making sure that people actually get the outcomes that they promised. So this person asked to remain anonymous because they are currently in a program and they didn't want their mentor or the person teaching them to find out, or fellow students to find out that they were asking me this question. So I totally am okay with that. You can always ask a question anonymously. If you do, I'm happy to put your name to it. We can give you a link back to your website and your socials, but if you need it anonymous, that's totally fine as well. And this person said that they were appalled when inside the program they asked their mentor, I've got a few people who've signed up to my program, but I can see they haven't even started it yet. And even though I've been running the program for 6 months, no one has yet finished my course. And it's really meant to be a 6-week process. And their mentor's response was, well, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. Once someone buys your course, you're not responsible for them completing it or getting the outcomes. And so this person has requested that I give my take on this because they were pretty shocked to hear that response from their mentor. And they're also not satisfied with taking that approach. So if you are in my audience, chances are that you, like this anonymous question asker, likely want to ensure that your program delivers on the outcomes that you promised in the sales process. Not only that, you don't want to sell your course to people to have them leave it in their digital graveyard forever. You don't want to sell your course to people, have them do a module or two, get stuck, and then just forget about it. You created your course because you wanted to create a transformation. You wanted to help people achieve an outcome. And so is it your responsibility to make sure that they start the program, that they engage with the program, that they finish the program, that they implement? Well, here's my hot take in 6 steps. Number 1, I believe in embracing shared responsibility. So when I think about the courses and programs that I've created, I have taken responsibility for making sure that I maximize the rate in which people complete the program, and I take my responsibility for delivering on what I promised in the sales process. So it's not enough for me to say, well, I created a program. Look, it probably isn't perfectly created, but it's your responsibility to go and do all the modules and do your best. So if it doesn't work for you, that's your fault. I do acknowledge there is some responsibility from the person who purchases the program. But if I take a shared responsibility, that means I'm doing my best to maximize their engagement and results, and they do their best to engage with the program and ask questions if they need. So when we take this different approach of embracing shared responsibility, it means that we're not just blaming our clients for not getting the results, but we're also not stepping over the boundaries and taking too much responsibility for them getting those outcomes. A great example of this is when I first launched the Heart-Centered Business Planner, and I'll make sure I link to that in the show notes of today's episode as well. The Heart-Centered Business Planning System started in 2014, and the first time I sold it just as a straight planner. It was a yearly planner, and people could buy it digitally and print it themselves. And fill it in at the start of the year and use it as a planning system. But what happened was I sold it quite cheaply. I think it was $25 the first time I sold it. But I followed up with pretty much every single person who bought that planner to see if they were using it. because I just sold it as a product, right? So, but there are two ways to address this. And I actually chose a second way to address this. So there are two ways to address this. One is, yes, you do the best that you can to make sure that the planner does its job and it's really well formatted and structured. It's easy to use. And you could have some automated reminders to let them know, like, hey, have you checked in? Hey, have you checked in? Right? So that's strategy number one, is take a little bit of responsibility by ensuring it's a high quality product and, sending some automated reminders. So it's not like taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes per buyer for you to actually follow up with them. But then the other thing that I did and that I recognized was that a great planner isn't just a planner, it's actually a system with some connection and accountability. And I created the Heart Centered Business Planning System for me. I created it for me. And I just thought, well, this is a great thing to bring along my audience with me for. So instead of just saying, oh, well, just have it and do what you want with it, I instead decided to sell the planner as a year-long planning system that included the live workshops as a group, email reminders, a Facebook community, and I charged appropriately for that. So rather than just selling it as a $25 printout or a $25 digital download, I instead now, with the Heart Centered Business Planner, the minimum investment for the Heart Centered Business Planner is $495. And that $495 isn't just for the planner. You get the yearly planner, you get the quarterly planner that turns it into action, and it also includes workshops so that we get together and do our yearly planning together and people can ask questions, and then we do our quarterly planning together each quarter with a slightly different focus on each quarterly workshop. So you can see there that I'm embracing shared responsibility, but I'm not delivering all of that in a $25 digital download. I've shifted the model of that product to ensure that I'm giving my audience the thing that they're most going to need to really maximize their success with the planning system. So it's a really great way for me to have that shared responsibility, but also ask for that shared responsibility from my audience. So for them to really get the most out of the planning system, one, they need to invest a little more to get access to all of the extras and the things that make it really shine and work. And then two, they also need to show up and be present with that planning system each quarter. I send email reminders. We have the Facebook group with lots and lots of prompts throughout the year. And we have those workshops that people can come to so they get some face-to-face time with me and some time to actually sit down and work on their plan. So it's got a really great sense of shared responsibility. Similarly, inside the Takeoff program, it's not just self-study modules. When it comes to starting a business, I recognized that what people need is not a course, because there's no such thing as one size fits all when it comes to business strategy, business growth, business model. There's some amazingly ginormous decisions that you're making at the very early stages of your business, and you need a mentor to actually work through those decisions with you. So the Takeoff program includes consistent group hot seat mentoring sessions and the Facebook community again, and a feedback loop in the learning process so that I can stay engaged and connected to people throughout the process of going through the program, give them that feedback, we can have that conversation, I can give them the advice, and again, I've priced that appropriately. So you can see that embracing shared responsibility isn't just about like set up as many automations as you can and leave them to it. There are ways that you can lean in, but then that requires your audience to lean in a little further as well. So there's just some really cool ways that you can do that to maximize people completing your program and getting those results. Number two is be clear on your value proposition of your program. So by getting very clear on what it's like before the program, what it's like after the program, and why each of those outcomes of after the program is important to your audience, then you'll be able to make sure that you're promising something that you can actually deliver on and make that promise in a tangible way. But you will have clarity and a shared understanding of what before and after looks like and why that's so important. So my value proposition table that I create for my products, I have one for every single program, every single product, every single offer, paid offer that I release has that value proposition mapped out super clear before I create the sales page, before I create the sales webinars, before I create my email marketing, before I create my promo posts. I get really solid on my value proposition. Then I know what my clients' expectations are going to be and what my share of the responsibility is for getting them to those expectations. Number 3 is almond milk it. So one of the fastest ways to stop people in their tracks when it comes to adult learning and doing online programs in particular is to give people a bunch of information and tasks that don't actually move them towards their goal. So when I say almond milk it, I use the analogy that if I was to come to your house for a little itty bitty sleepover, wouldn't that be fun? If I was to come to your house for a sleepover, I would need almond milk for my coffee in the morning. Now, you wouldn't then launch into a monologue on all the different benefits of almond milk, the different brands of almond milk, the 17 shops within 40-kilometre radius that sell almond milk, all of the streets on the way to those stores that might potentially sell me almond milk, the pros and cons of every different store that might get me almond milk, right? You would say, get in the car. Let's go get you some almond milk. That's why people buy a course from you. Information is freely available right now. Your job is not to collect and collate information and present information. Your job is to fast track your clients through transformation. Your job is to get them their almond milk the most efficient and effective way as possible. So in a lot of cases, that involves scraping a bunch of information out of your program or reminding yourself in the program creation process that the big outcome of this is not learning. The big outcome of this is not knowledge. The big outcome of this is not information. Now, I know that there's a whole big trend towards knowledge-based businesses these days, but actually I think that sells you short. You are not just some random book of information. You are a human who is here to facilitate transformation. And the fastest way for you to get people from where they are to where they want to be is the pathway that's going to be the best one for your program, because it will keep people engaged in the process because they can see themselves moving forward quickly. So almond milk this process as much as you can. Fourth, I recommend having some form of connection. Now, I understand this doesn't work for very passive income products. So let's say you create a template and you sell your template for $29. Well, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of connection in the template delivery process. However, wouldn't it be amazing if in the delivery process of giving the person that template and maybe in an automated follow-up, you ask them, do you have any questions? Have you got stuck on anything? Let me know. Especially when you first launch something, you get your first clients through, it's a great opportunity for you to refine it, because if 20 people buy your template and none of them actually use it or implement it or get results with it, you have no raving fans of your templates. You have no one referring new clients to you. So especially in the first couple of launches, even if it's a passive product, I do recommend having some form of connection. Now for me, most of my products are high connection, lots of hand-holding and lots of support. They are priced appropriately to ensure that I'm being paid appropriately for that access that people get to me, for that connection. But even for passive products, you are absolutely able to use some forms of connection to ensure that it's getting people results. Number 5, pay attention and refine. Pay attention to open rates of emails, especially when they're delivering a paid product or service. Pay attention to the engagement in the Facebook community if you have one attached to your program. Pay attention to whether people are replying to your emails. Pay attention to download rates or completion rates on your course if that data is available to you. And you can pay attention by surveying or doing a feedback form to people who've purchased as well. Ask them, did they get stuck on anything? Was there anything missing from the process? Did they actually get any results? What was the most frustrating part about doing that process? Now, I understand sometimes that can be a little bit daunting. That can be a little bit scary to ask people for their feedback. What if it invites them to ask for a refund because they realize they didn't actually do anything with it? And now they think, well, it didn't actually work for me, so can I please have a refund? Number one, hopefully you've got your refund terms and conditions all in place. If you don't, that's a really good reminder to do that. And number two, if someone is within their refund period and you asking them for feedback actually instigates them asking for a refund, then I actually think that's part of being in business. And I think that's important feedback, right? So it's not a problem if it's within industry averages. So like particularly for online businesses, industry standard refund rates are about 5%. So if you sold 100 templates and 5% of people asked for a refund within their refund period, then actually I think that that's fairly reasonable. There's nothing to worry about there. That's just part of being in business. But if you send out a feedback survey and 20% of the people who purchase then all of a sudden are asking for a refund, wouldn't you rather know and be able to fix the thing rather than just constantly living in fear that if you ask people for feedback, they're going to ask for refunds? Sometimes we need to face up to the reality that our products and services aren't necessarily hitting the mark in order to improve them, to get them to the point where they're snowballing because people are raving about them and sharing it with their friends. So pay attention and refine. And then the final tip that I have for creating a quality course or membership that delivers on its promise, that gets people outcomes, that has people engaged, is to learn some of the key principles of adult learning. Adult learning principles help us to create products and services that are significantly more likely to be completed, that meet the needs of our clients, and that help us to shape something that's actually going to maximize results. One of the key strategies that I use that embraces adult learning, it's built on the Selamy learning cycle, if you want to go and Google that and look it up, is that in my courses, when I map them out, for every learning point, I have learn, do, and share. For every key thing that I'm taking people through in my programs, what do they need to learn? What do they do with that learning? And then what do I get them to share with us to create a feedback cycle for that learning? Implementing Learn, Do, Share in my courses has helped me maximize completion rates, maximize engagement, and maximize my clients' results. It also means that people are far more likely to come and share, I got stuck on this, because I've asked them to share something specific in every single module. And if they don't know how to come and share that, if they don't know how to build the thing I've asked them to build to share, if they don't know how to do the thing I've asked them to do so that they've got something to share, I get that feedback really quickly. So adult learning principles, easy to Google. Selmy learning cycle, easy to Google, but just do a little bit of study, a little bit of learning around what it takes to get adults to transform, because adult learning principles are different to ones that are required for children. And as a course creator, you are in the education business. As a membership creator, you are in the education business. You are using an educational platform or process to help facilitate a transformation. And so we do want to make sure there's some rigor behind what it is that you're creating. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go off and do a certificate 4 class or get a degree in adult learning or education or anything along those lines, but a simple Google here and there, engaging in courses that take those adult learning principles into consideration, doing courses from other people and seeing how they facilitate change, paying attention to things that work for you and don't work for you. These will all help you to refine your processes and ensure maximum engagement and maximum completion. Now, of course, inside the Leverage and Launch program, in which I teach you how to create your own group program, whether it be a course or a membership, and launch it, it is built on adult learning principles. And I actually do take you through some very basic adult learning principles that can apply to all courses and memberships to help you ensure that you are getting those great completion rates. So if you're looking for more information about Leverage and Launch, please do come along to the show notes at tashcorbin.com/325, and I'll make sure I've got a link there for you. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centre Business podcast. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.